Okay, so you've given us some really fantastic stuff to dig into today.
Yeah, it's quite a mix.
We've got this really active Reddit discussion about heat, um, the Wikipedia page for Edward Bunker, fascinating guy, and one for the movie itself.
Right. And that location's website, too, pinpointing all the
Yeah,
spots.
plus those Collider articles on the true story behind it all. De Niro's filmography page, some Screen Rant pieces looking at the realism.
And Kilmer's reload scene, yeah.
Yeah, that specific scene. And of course, Roger Ebert's take, calling it basically the best heist movie ever in his Far-Flingers piece.
He really championed it.
So our mission today really is to kind of break down why Heat still hits so hard after all these years. You know, the 1995 film.
Right.
We want to look at how it was made, that gritty production, how much of it was actually real, and this key figure, Edward Bunker, who seems really central to its authentic feel.
Definitely going to be some aha moments, I think.
I hope so.
I mean, it's kind of amazing how Heat just holds up.
Mm.
Michael Mann directing, Pacino and De Niro, their first time actually acting together on screen.
Yeah, that was a huge deal at the time.
Huge. De Niro as Macaulay, the super professional thief. Pacino as Hannah, the obsessed LAPD cop. It wasn't just a box office hit. Critics loved it too. For the direction, the acting,
Yeah.
it just landed.
It really did. And you see that lasting power in that Reddit thread, right? People posting behind-the-scenes photos and everyone jumps in.
Yeah, comments are great. Talking about that, like, tangible feeling of the city man created.
Mm-hmm. The urban atmosphere.
And that coffee shop scene, obviously. Someone called it a masterclass in tension, which feels right.
Totally. Understated, but so intense. And then, bam, the action sequences.
Which are legendary. And people are already buzzing about Heat, too. Someone even mentioned the actors trained with an ex-SS guy.
Yeah, I saw that. Which, you know, points to that commitment to making it feel real. But where did that core realism actually come from? It seems like the main conflict. It's pulled straight from real life.
It really is.
Yeah.
What's so interesting is that whole Hannah Macaulay dynamic. It directly mirrors a real Chicago police officer, Chuck Adamson, and his pursuit of a real criminal named Neil Macaulay.
The actual Neil Macaulay, De Niro's character.
The very same guy.
Yeah.
He was the inspiration. And they didn't just, like, parallel each other. They actually met for coffee.
No way. Like the movie scene.
Exactly like the movie scene.
Yeah.
And later, there was a real confrontation, guns involved. Man put that right into the script. It's key to why the film feels so grounded.
Wow. And it gets even more specific, right? One of those Collider articles mentioned a real robbery.
Yeah, the 1964 grocery store robbery in Chicago. Macaulay's crew hit it, but the cops, led by Adamson, were waiting. They had the place surrounded, and the crew didn't know.
Oh, man.
It turned into this huge shootout in an alley. Two of Macaulay's guys died there. Macaulay himself ran, got shot dead on somebody's lawn. One guy got away.
Jeez. That's incredibly intense and clearly the basis for the film's climax.
Absolutely. That raw, chaotic violence,
Yeah.
it came from a real event.
And speaking of that kind of gritty LA crime reality, there's this other figure whose life seems woven into the fabric of the film, Edward Bunker.
Ah, Edward Bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a story. Crime writer, screenwriter, actor, and, ex-con. Spent a lot of time inside.
Okay, let's get into his life a bit because it sounds pretty incredible. Born in LA, tough start, parents divorced, he's in these boarding homes.
Which he said were just brutal.
Yeah, sounds like it. He was rebellious early on, run-ins with the law, apparently assaulted his own father at 11, and talked about a really bad beating in a state hospital. Seems like he learned to distrust authority very, very early.
Makes sense. And he ended up in places like Preston Castle, right? Juvenile Hall, surrounded by other young, hardened criminals.
But here's the twist. Despite all that, super high IQ, like 152 reported, street smart, obviously, but also really well-read.
Which leads to this unexpected path into writing. He meets Louise Fazenda.
Yeah, the silent film actress. Her husband was a producer. She really took an interest in him, gave him a typewriter, books.
Dictionary, thesaurus.
Right. And introduced him to people like Aldous Huxley, William Randolph Hearst. He's reading the New York Times Book Review, taking correspondence courses.
Amazing. But still, he ends up in San Quentin at 17, the youngest inmate ever at the time.
It's wild. And even after parole, he just couldn't seem to fit in on the outside. Felt like an outsider.
Tried going straight right, selling used cars.
Yeah, but it didn't stick. He drifted back to crime robberies, check fraud, you name it, more jail time, even faked insanity once, apparently.
But he kept writing. even inside.
Exactly. Gets his first novel, No Beast So Fierce, published while he's still locked up, and Dustin Hoffman buys the movie rights.
That's incredible.
Then he gets paroled again in 75, and this time, it sticks.
Yeah.
He starts actually making a living writing and acting screenplay for Straight Time based on his book.
Acted in it too.
Right, and roles in Runaway Train, Animal Factory, even that small part in Reservoir Dogs.
People probably remember that.
So his writing, it's completely shaped by all this, isn't it? That hard-boiled, gritty, realistic style.
Oh, completely. Unsentimental. He knew the underworld. He knew the prison system from the inside out. Little Boy Blue is supposed to be very autobiographical.
And the themes. Young guys getting trapped in crime, authorities who are either cruel or useless.
The lack of real chances for people in that system.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote about parts of L.A., types of people that usually get ignored.
He had that quote, right? Something about his writing.
Yeah, my purpose in writing is to transcend my existence by illuminating it. Powerful stuff. His autobiography, Mr. Blue, goes even deeper.
Okay, so here's the connection back to Heat that's really interesting. Andy McNabb, the ex-SS guy, the technical advisor everyone mentioned.
That's one from the Reddit thread, yeah,
Yeah.
the weapons trainer.
Apparently he had worked with Bunker before on other projects.
Ah, okay.
So the thinking is Bunker's deep first-hand knowledge of how criminals operate, how they talk, how they think, it must have filtered into Heat, maybe through McNabb, maybe more directly. It adds another layer to that realism.
That makes a lot of sense. It wasn't just theoretical. Bunker knew that world.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift to the actual making of the film. Mann had the idea way back, right? Like 79.
Yeah, based directly on that Adams McCauley story. He even made a TV movie first, L.A. Takedown, using an earlier version of the script.
Right, I remember hearing about that. Then he came back to it in 94 for the feature film.
And the location scouting was a huge deal. Mann really wanted parts of L.A. that hadn't been filmed to death.
Finding those fresh angles, even filming at LAX was apparently a nightmare.
Yeah, logistical challenges, plus there was a bomber threat around that time, complicating things even more.
Crazy. And then the training, that 3 months of weapons training for the actors.
With live ammo, under McNabb's supervision.
That's intense.
Yeah.
But you see the result, especially in that bank robbery shootout.
Absolutely. Those scenes are legendary for their realism, so much so that the U.S. Marines actually use them in training.
Seriously.
Yeah, that moment where Val Kilmer does the reload during the shootout, apparently Marine trainers point to that as, like, perfect form under gunfire.
Yeah.
They tell recruits to watch it.
Wow. That's quite an endorsement.
And Mann didn't just rely on sound effects added later. He recorded the actual sound of the blank rounds firing on location.
You can tell it sounds different, more visceral.
Exactly. It adds this huge layer of auditory realism, makes it feel much more immediate and dangerous.
So how did critics react at the time? We know Ebert loved it.
Overwhelmingly positive, generally. Ebert called the script uncommonly literate, praised how it explored the psychology, the parallels between Hannah and Macaulay, their personal lives.
Yeah, it wasn't just action, it had depth.
Right. Other critics agreed, called it smart, well-made, great characters, and it's had this lasting influence, too. Filmmakers today, like Mia Hansen-Løve, talk about being obsessed with it, how it influenced their work thematically.
Its cultural footprint is pretty big then, beyond just film buffs.
Huge. You see its DNA in other heist movies that came later. Ebert mentioned The Dark Knight, The Town. Specific scenes sometimes feel like direct homages.
And video games too, right? Like
Yeah.
GTA.
Oh, definitely. Grand Theft Auto owes a lot to Heat's style, those big set-piece robberies. And sadly, you even see echoes in real life sometimes. That North Hollywood shootout years ago.
Right, people immediately compared it to the movie.
Yeah, and other big heists around the world. The film's realism was so striking, it became a kind of reference point, for better or worse.
And the story isn't even over, technically. There's Heat 2 now.
The novel, yeah, co-written by Mann himself and Meg Gardner.
Which is both a prequel and a sequel. How does that work?
It jumps around in time, explores the characters' past, Macaulay, Hannah, Chris Shirley's before the movie, and then picks up with Hannah and Shirley's after the movie's events. Different timelines woven together.
Interesting. So it fleshes out that whole world even more.
Exactly. And like we heard from the Reddit thread and other places, there's definitely talk, maybe even serious plans, to turn Heat 2 into a movie as well.
Wow. Okay. The saga continues.
Seems like it. So wrapping this all up, thinking about the key things we've uncovered.
Yeah, what stands out?
Well, definitely the real-life roots. That Adams and Macaulay story is fundamental.
Right. And Edward Bunker's role. Maybe not always obvious, but his life experience adding that layer of authenticity feels crucial.
Absolutely crucial. Then there's the sheer meticulousness of the production, the training, the sound, the locations, all driving that realism.
Which is why it's still studied and admired today.
And its impact, you know, on other films, games, even how we sometimes talk about real-world crime. Plus, now this continuation with Heat 2, it's a story that keeps expanding.
Okay, so here's maybe a final thought to leave people with. When you mix all that together, the real crime story, Bunker's insider view, Mann's directing style, what do you think is the single most important thing that makes Heat still resonate so much almost 30 years later?
Hmm, that's tough. Is it just the flat-out realism?
Or is it the characters? How complex they are, Hannah and Macaulay being these sort of mirror images on opposite sides.
Or maybe just that exploration of loneliness, professionalism,
Yeah.
that kind of existential vibe they both have?
Maybe think about Bunker's quote again, transcend my existence by illuminating it. Does thinking about the film through that lens, illuminating the stark world, tell us something about why it endures? Something to chew on, anyway.
If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe Crime Breach.